Hi, this is Fiona. I'm here with my friend and colleague Colin Brady.
Hi everyone.
And we're going to be talking about different piano method books, things that are usually outside of the main repertoire that you see. And we're both piano teachers, so we want to kind of expose more of the piano method books that are out there that most people don't know about. So as piano teachers, we've been basically sticking to maybe 2 or 3 method books. And I want to say that most piano teachers stick to these main 3 method books.
Yes.
And so we're here to show you that there's actually a lot more method books out there. And we actually each have a surprise bag.
We have our mystery bags here.
Shall we get started?
Call it.
Okay, tails.
Tails, you go first.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a sip of wine.
Okay. All right, so my first book, I'm gonna mix it up. I'm not gonna do this in order.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, so here we got
wow.
the Royal Conservatory.
I have never seen that before.
Okay, so this is just one of the books. These come in a group of books, but this is probably one of the most advanced books that I use.
I like the print. It's very clear and concise.
Yeah, so it's, I would say this is kind of more like the size of it is more kind of like Henley or Urtext.
Yeah, it does look Urtext quality.
Right.
And it's a composers not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, these are more contemporary composers. This is not always the case, but they do a lot of contemporary composers, but also, older composers as well. This is just one of the books, so this is just the piano etudes, but this is a level 1, and this gets pretty advanced pretty quickly. I didn't bring the level before this. There's a whole preparatory level, several preparatory levels that come before this, the A and the B.
I already love it because I like the print, and I like that. Can I take a look for a second? So what I'm seeing right away is there are, even though it's music, as you can see, it looks like there are concepts that the teacher can just explain. Even if the student hasn't encountered certain things, there's things that the teacher can explain on the spot without explanation from the book.
That's
so perhaps
true.
This gives the teacher an opportunity to explain, oh, well, this means this, without the book explaining it.
Right. That's one thing, I feel like with a lot of method books is they like to micromanage how we kind of explain things. This book just gives you the music. It's just straight music, no explanation. In general, when I'm working with this series, this is way more advanced. So this is stuff that I saw in the MTAC people were using, and just adult students too that just wanted to kind of have more of an intellectual kind of kick. So not a lot of kids. I don't use this very much for kids just because I feel like in a way most kids need to kind of have the pictures and they move slower. This is a faster paced method book. I do like it. I do like the change in composers' music that we're playing. So it's definitely more advanced, and this is just the level 1. So.
I like it that it's very simple, classy looking, clean.
Royal Conservatory. Yeah. And so one thing about these books is they are not cheap.
Interesting.
So they are more expensive. $14 for this, but you have to get a group of books together.
Okay.
Plus you pay for the shipping. These are not offered in music stores just because they are not really widely used.
Excellent.
So
I'm gonna definitely look into those. I do approve.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, so it's my turn. Oh, okay, so in the spirit of exploring new methods that are not given the attention they deserve, I think I'm going to share... Don't peek.
Nope.
I'm going to share, it's called Piano Discoveries.
That's cute.
By Janet, I think it's Voigt. It's V-O-G-T, Vogt, or Voigt, I guess. I guess the G is silent. And Leon Bates, but Janet Voigt is the principal author, I think. The way I encountered Janet Voigt initially was through her adult piano method, which is called Mastering Music Piano Course. And I loved this book because of just how clean cut it was and just how organized and how it progresses very smoothly, right? But this is the children's method, and I think the pictures are really
They're
cute.
super cute.
They're not super in your face. They're like very soft and subtle, like these little circle people, right? And this is the on-staff starter. So there is also an off-staff starter, which is the kind of the more horizontal book. This is the more vertical book, and this is, I guess, supposed to be subsequent to the off-staff starter. So what I like is that it is very thorough, perhaps overly thorough. It has a lot of repetition, but the student gets used to, what does it mean if the stem is going up? It typically means it's the right hand. If the stem is going down in the bass clef, it's the left hand. A lot of, it does sort of dip the fish in the plastic bag, in the tank slowly, but I do like the print. I like that it's thorough. I wouldn't say that it's babying the student. It's just thorough, right? And so, but you don't have to necessarily assign the student to practice every single exercise. You can give, if it's easy in the lesson and they play it correctly, give the sticker in the lesson. You don't have to send them home and practice it. Give the sticker for one, give a sticker for the next, and then maybe assign the next two.
Right.
So
right.
I don't know if you notice anything.
What I like about this is the pages are colored in the background. There's something nice about looking at color. I don't know if it's color therapy or something. Sometimes looking at a white page, it's a little bit, it can, to a kid, it can kind of look
sterile.
like the same. Yeah, so there's something nice, and this is also, I've noticed certain colors kind of can make the student maybe be more calm.
Do you have any opinions about what's called middle C position, where both thumbs are on middle C? I have mixed feelings about it. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I have the student do, so when we do warm-ups in the very beginning, what we do is the C5 finger scale, so the hands are moving in parallel motion. I do have the student do a contrary motion C major scale where they're playing an ascending and a descending C major scale at the same time, and so the thumbs do start on the middle C position, so I use that position so they can kind of feel that out. But I don't like to have them when they write the notes on the keyboard. I really don't think that's good. I think that they have to get used to just identifying the groups of twos and the groups of threes.
Oh yeah.
Seeing the 3 white notes that belong there and the 4 white notes that belong to the group of 3. It's just repetition. They just have to get to know.
I think my only issue with middle C position is when the student is not sure which thumb to use. That's my only issue. I want them to, if the stem's pointing up, use your right thumb. If the thumb's pointing down, so I think that's what the on-staff starter. That's the approach it uses, is a lot of middle C hand position. So,
okay, cool. So let's move into the next pick. I am choosing another book. These ones.
So this is the Robert Pace.
All right,
that you keep
so
talking about.
these are my Robert Pace books. Unfortunately, they have been damaged, water damage, but they're still good. They no longer make this method book, unfortunately, and Robert Pace was very dry and very sterile and very to the point in his method books. And I think that in a way that was good, is a good thing, but it's also, kids don't always like to,
I don't
get
know.
right into key signatures.
I love, right into key signatures. Look, right away?
Yeah,
no,
so
that's too early.
Page 11, we're already doing key signatures.
I think that's a little, well, maybe that's why you're such a great sight reader.
Well, it's still, and then chord progressions. Right away.
You understood that in your early
Well, here's the
lessons?
thing. At the time, I was kind of shy. I didn't ask a lot of questions. So here, we're doing 5 finger scales. Okay, so we build up to that, and this whole book is
tattered.
Yeah, I have to digitize
Look
it.
at all your pumpkin stickers.
Right? So, but we're playing music that's pretty difficult, and this is I started when I was, kid.
That's why you're a great sight reader, probably.
But I think that my parents had to reward me a lot. They had to take me to McDonald's a lot. Here I'm doing the 5 finger scales early on, and these different louds and soft steadies.
It's almost like the Bartok microcosmos.
Kind of, yeah.
Launching you right into the deep end right away.
And
your swim.
And these were group lessons, so there's total of 4 books in here. I can't. This is the newer version that his daughter edits, and I don't.
It's cute. I like it.
It is cute, but it's also a bit watered down. Like it's not the same. I mean, you're still doing your key signatures.
So this is the theory book, though.
This is just the theory book.
Okay. And was this the finger builders?
Yeah.
So that's his piano method, right?
Yeah.
He called it finger builders.
Finger builders. Okay. You got music for piano. You got creative music. So there's like a group of 4 books per level, and I got all the way through the whole thing through level 6. But I do feel like maybe my teacher wasn't super strict on me. If I got some wrong notes, she would kind of let me start in the middle. I make my students start sometimes I'll make them like kind of work on certain chunks that are challenging, but I'll always make them play the whole thing through the end, just because I want.
I think if a student's gonna work on something that's relatively challenging, I think that's where demonstration is important. Yeah. There has to be that correspondence between what they're hearing and what they're seeing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, my turn. Well, since in the spirit of talking about our methods, it's interesting. So the method I grew up with was. Should I show the new edition or the old edition?
Old.
So, okay, I grew up with The Music Tree by Francis Clark. Wow. So this is all tattered and beautiful. And I actually really loved this book. Like it's cute and it's dry and it's there's no pictures actually at all, but in a way it's like I feel like I used my imagination and thought of the pictures myself, and let me also show the new edition. So this is virtually the same book, but it has all these cartoons on it now. Yeah. Which I mean they're cute, but I think in my heart of hearts I prefer the old fashioned. A lot of the songs in the new edition are the same as in the old edition. What's interesting is level 1 does not introduce eighth notes at all. They save that for level 2, and I think it's good to save things because students that are ambitious, they're like, ooh, it's eighth note. I'm finally learning eighth notes. Yeah. Like, yay, and so they save it. But what I find interesting is in level 1, they already introduce a lot of ledger lines, which, like Piano Adventures, for example, they don't really talk about ledger lines until a bit later, So it's interesting how different editions prioritize what order to discuss concepts. So, Music Tree, we start out with what are called landmark notes. So as you can see, there's the middle C in the middle, and then there's G on the second line above and F on the second line below. So they're all sort of the same distance apart, and then it kind of works around those. But yeah, I think it's a great book.
Is it just one book per level? Or is there multiple books per level?
So I started with level 1. I did not use the sort of like...
The primer?
Yeah, they call it Time to Begin.
Oh, that's cute.
And of course it does what a lot of books do, where you're just working on black keys, and it's important because kids have to know their right hand and their left hand. They have to know their finger numbers. They have to know time. So even though you're not learning the grand staff yet, you're learning basic pacing and right and left and how long, how short, all that stuff.
Finger numbers.
Yeah, and the duets are great. So, even though the student part is pretty simple, they get to hear music with the duet part, and I think the duet parts are quite satisfying.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Duet.
So
okay, on to the next one. We're gonna do the Keith Snell.
Keith Snell. Yes.
All right, Keith Snell is another. I would say the method books are going to be a little bit more on the faster pace side. Okay. So this kind of gives you a sample of the different books. So there's a skills book. This
Technique.
is the preparatory level technique.
Have a look.
Yeah, and then just kind of like fundamental theory, and then there's piano repertoire, and they usually have Baroque and classical, romantic and contemporary books. But these are also kind of like the Royal Conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of just, you know, the music is on the page, it's there.
It's a bit dry.
It's a bit dry, but the music is kind of music that you're going to hear from established composers, not just from the editor that's trying to make up a fun song using like 1 and 4 chords and 5
They're
chords.
using real music.
They're using real music, which, same thing with the Robert Pace books. They use real music from Haydn, Beethoven, Bach. When you get to Piano Adventures, they're mostly using their own stuff that they've written.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, these are pretty good books. The music theory is a bit it's a bit thorough. You know, we're kind of getting into counting, writing out the counting for beats, and this is just the preparatory level. You know, writing out your rests. So writing out scales. So it's pretty thorough. I've actually used this book for college level beginners. So mostly my adult students I've used this for.
Yeah. And they can comprehend in a different way than...
And actually, some of my high school students have used these books.
Excellent,
too.
excellent. I think it's good for high school.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so my next show and tell is students either love these books or they hate them. And we all know what they are. I happen to love these books. I don't know why I love them so much. But they are the Dozen a Day books. I love these books, and they've been around forever. They've been around since 1957.
Oh my god!
And I love that they haven't changed. They haven't updated the editions. This is exactly what they looked like back in the day. My brother, who took lessons before me, had these books, and then when I took piano lessons, I used his hand-me-down books, and he had drawn little like faces and the stick figures and hairstyles, and as you can see, like there's all these stick figures. I think that they are some students, again, think that they're kind of boring and mundane, but I think that they are very thorough. It's very basic skills that you have to reinforce. So I just think they're fun, and if a student is having issues with a certain technique or whatever, this will clean it right up, I think, for them. It's really up to the teacher whether they think that the student should start with the preparatory book or level 1. Level 1 is a much faster pace. The preparatory book is pretty thorough, but it has so many great basic skills. I just can't say enough good things about Dozen a Day. I feel like I just went on a Dozen a Day shopping spree recently, and I bought all of them, but I only brought the 2 tonight. So, yeah. And
they're great because they're short little fragmentary things. You can get a lot from a small chunk.
Yeah, they're exercises. You wouldn't play them in a recital, but they're just.
People don't, and I didn't bring the scale book that I use. We can maybe do that in the next video. But like sometimes it's hard to teach students or get students to play scales and their chords and stuff like that. So you can kind of sneak them in to kind of exercises like those. All right, we're gonna do our last choice, and we're gonna continue this in the next video of other method books. So
this is part 1.
This is just part 1.
Okay, great.
Okay, pageants for piano.
I love that you have all these old-fashioned books. That's my, you're speaking my language here.
These are, I believe, hard to come by. But what I love about these is that, again, they're simple. And they just, you start with middle C and D. You get to playing on the very first page. You may not understand, what this all means. But, the teacher is going to explain it.
I already like it.
So, very simple, and then it just adds another note, right? And I can actually get students to do pretty, complex stuff without them really knowing this is C, this is D. I just say, this is this note right here, this is this note, and then it's just more intuitive, right? And then just kind of builds upon it. We're doing like second march, third march, it just builds upon itself, which I just love.
Is it still in print? Like, could I order this right now?
It's hard to come
I
by.
love this.
I know.
So I love that it's these exercises, but again, as we were saying, there's no explanation from the book. It's up to the teacher, which is what you're paying for, right?
Exactly.
To explain what's going on here. Right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that like teachers are kind of getting lazy these days. They want, the lessons to be easy, stress-free, but I think it's our job to really be thorough when we're explaining stuff and also make it digestible. I think that students need to kind of be pushed. It's so funny because I watched Whiplash recently. Did you ever watch Whiplash?
I have not, no.
Okay. Well, it's about a crazy drum teacher.
Okay.
And the teacher, he's abusive. You don't want to be like that type of teacher. But he was saying like, oh, we haven't had a Duke Ellington, we haven't had a Miles Davis in a really long time. Like, we need to like make the student like really feel like they're always on edge. Like they could just be replaced really easily.
Keep them on their toes.
This is in jazz more so because you're playing with bands. I think with piano, my first teacher was very strict.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through a phase where I was kind of strict, and then I kind of became more lenient. And then I'm in this middle ground where I'm like, I will let the student know if they're not progressing, if they're not moving fast enough, or if they need to step up in any way.
Right.
So I've been more vocal about that. But I've used this with both kids and adults. Someone that just wants the very basic, they don't want to spend a lot of money on it. This is like, I think, $10 or something like that. And they just go through it, But I supplement stuff, but it's more, this is the student that's very independent, that can kind of pick up information really quickly, learn really quickly, or if they've played another instrument before, this works really well.
I love it. I love I wonder if that's still in print.
Yeah, you can probably find it. It's just, I might have to special order it. One more for you.
Okay, so the next one is, of course, a method that we all know about. And again, some people like really hate this method. They're like think it's like Satan or something, just because it's obvious. It's the John Thompson's, right? And I didn't just bring this just to have things to show. I have used this method with certain students, and actually I used this method in my little crisis where I said, let's use something different besides piano adventures, right? Now, the thing I think that everyone thinks about when they think of John Thompson is the finger numbers, which are on every single note. Now, I actually don't see it as much of a problem, and I'll tell you why. It's because you're not just seeing the finger numbers, you're seeing the notes that correspond to the finger numbers. So the student starts to kind of see them as mutually exclusive eventually. Eventually the finger numbers can start to peel off slowly. I am a huge finger number person, no matter what repertoire I'm working on with my students, whether it's beginner or whether it's like highly advanced. Of course, when it comes to highly advanced, the finger numbers are written more for technical purposes, not for reading purposes. But the caveat is that I don't write the finger numbers for the students. They have to tell me what the finger number is. So I'll say that, because if they say, oh, this is 3, and then it goes up, and then they say, oh, it's 4, I say, okay, good, you saw that it went up one step. So it's okay to write, in my opinion, it's okay to write finger numbers as long as it's the student that are coming up with the right answers. Okay? Because in a way, I will sit with my students and have them write finger numbers, so that in a way they're playing the piece in their mind visually before they're actually playing it with their fingers. So they're thinking about their finger. Anyway, I digress, but that's, I think, the main kind of association with John Thompson is the finger numbers. Have you worked with any students on this? Yeah.
So
it's like, this is what it looks like.
And you're playing real music in here too.
Yeah, and I would say that it's a very old school book, and my teacher, Dale Sang, actually at 4 years old when she started piano, started with John Thompson. So I don't know if the method book that we start with has a long range effect on our longevity with piano, and
Right.
if it sends us on a different trajectory than other method books do.
Right.
I mean, if you did a twin study and you took two twins and one did John Thompson and one did Robert Pace, like how would they end up 5 years later? You know.
I mean, every method book kind of covers what it needs to cover. You're covering notes, you're covering hand, fingers, scales, form. Every method book kind of has its pluses and minuses. Also, if you introduce too many things at once, it tends to overwhelm the person sometimes. So you have to think about, just the person, how their learning style is. I usually don't tell the student to get the book until after I've had their first lesson and I get a feel for how.
So you decide.
I decide for
what
them.
suits the student.
Yeah, and their learning style. So I'm just showing them hand position, the names of the notes, identifying the notes, finger numbers, and then just how they're able to learn. I have a board that I use that I draw notes on. I should bring that next time.
I should get one of those.
Yeah, it's very helpful, and then I can use it when I do my online students. I can just write the notes out on the board. I explain chords, scales that way, key signatures. So it makes it really easy. And then after the first lesson, then I'm like, okay, this person would work well with this book or this book. I've had to switch over too. There's a method book that I also use, the Premier piano course, which I did not bring, and that one's stylistically different from a lot of the other music. So we didn't really talk about stylistically. Premier piano course is more kind of jazz and blues. Okay. And that one's there's more syncopation with the rhythm and stuff like that. So maybe I can bring that up next time. But a lot of these books are kind of geared more towards classical music. Yes, I agree. I feel like, and we can talk about this later, but the Alfred is more chordal based. Right. So it's a lot of, stacked notes. Whereas, a lot of these books we've discussed are, phrases. You're right. Yeah, but anyway, I mean, we're not bashing Piano Adventures. It really is a great method book, but sometimes it can tend to hog the stage a bit, and there's just so many other method books out there that deserve attention. Right. And I guess as piano teachers, I couldn't imagine teaching nothing but Piano Adventures for the next 30 years. Like, I would probably lose my mind. So there's just a variety. It's good to have variety. Agree. Yeah, and I just think that, like, if you can teach without the method book, I think you just kind of go with the student wants to learn and stuff like that. That can be helpful. I've done where I've just completely abandoned the method book and just gone, I give them a sheet of paper, work on this. That tends to not be really focused though, because sometimes they can kind of forget what they learned previously. So I actually like doing the book. There's also students that want to do more improv stuff and more kind of jazz-based stuff, and that is also a different route as well. So, each method book is unique in its own way, and we're just kind of highlighting that there are strengths and weaknesses with every one of these books. Absolutely. There are strengths and there's weaknesses to every book, and maybe we should bring back the tradition of more than one book, right. having a variety, having 3 books or 2, but not just the same book every time. Right. Because I do think kids need to learn a lot of songs. They can't just be one song. I remember bringing in a bag full of maybe 20 books to my lessons. We had all the Christmas music and the pop and the jazz and the classics, and we always had solos that we'd choose. And my teacher had boxes and boxes of sheet music, and we just go through it, and she had it all organized by levels, and we just kind of choose, and she'd play it for us. And so, I didn't mention Robert Pace is a group piano lesson method book, so you want to do it in pairs, so you get to hear your partner play. And I think it's kind of like a master class thing rather than the one-on-one thing. Then you kind of see where you stand. If your piano partner is, doing really well and you're kind of slacking, it kind of pushes you to kind of, Yeah, it's motivating and a little bit competitive, healthy competition. Yeah. And I just want to say, and I'm probably getting a little philosophical here, but what's interesting is it's not as if these method books get you ready to play the piano, and then once you're done with the method books, it's okay, now you're able to play everything. It's amazing when I'm working with a student who I've even been working with for 10 years,
and we'll be working through a piece, and we'll encounter something, and I'll say, "Oh, you've never seen that before? Okay, let me explain what this is." So the method book never really ends. The composer, the repertoire that the composers, there are lessons that you will never stop learning.
Yeah, you're never done learning.
Yeah.
It's always constantly, it's a constant thing.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong commitment. Exactly. Just I feel like I still take lessons.
Absolutely. That's the thing about piano is you actually never stop learning.
Right.
You will never in this life reach that point where, oh, okay, I understand everything now. It never happens.
Right. Because there's just so much music out there. So much music, you will never be able to play all of it. So,
Yeah. Well, awesome. This was super fun. Yeah. And
you.
We're surrounded by happiness, all these method books. Yeah.
So stay tuned. We'll have a second video coming up and soon.
Looking forward to it.
Bye.